glucose. The first step in making a 6-carbon sugar like glucose is to combine carbon dioxide with a what? 5-carbon sugar. And that 5-carbon sugar already has 2 phosphates on it. And so in order to start making sugar, what do you have to have? You have to have sugar. Not only that, you have to have energized sugar to start with before you can even begin to make sugar. So you're right back to complex prerequisites, anticipation again. Who would do that? Who would grab carbon dioxide out of the air and combine it with an energized 5-carbon sugar? And this is a spectacularly beautiful answer to that question. Okay. This is an enzyme. This is one of the early enzyme pictures. You guys need to get David DeWitt here sometime. Have you ever had David DeWitt here? David DeWitt is a top-notch creationist biochemist at Liberty University. He also teaches biochem, molecular biology at ICR, except he's on leave right now because he's got a big grant from the federal government for Alzheimer's research. So he's a top-notch, world-class Alzheimer's researcher. I was at the Mega Conference, some of you probably were too, in July. And he has this PowerPoint presentation with rotating 3-dimensional protein molecules. Okay, so he's in the 22nd century. I'm still, basically working. Well, never mind. But at any rate, a beautiful laced oily-like molecule with the interesting name ribulose bisphosphate carboxylase oxygenase. Shortened to Rubisco. Okay, so this is Rubisco. Fantastically beautiful enzyme, and it takes carbon dioxide from the air, and the plant has little holes to breathe in carbon dioxide, puts it together with this energized 5-carbon sugar to begin the process of sugar making. But now I got some bad news for you. I can probably write that in here someplace. Rubisco is the short name for this. And these are capitalized, ribulose bisphosphate carboxylase oxygenase. The enzyme, and this is considered by many to be the most common enzyme on Earth. Okay, and so it's in all green plants, and there are many copies of it in the green plants. But it doesn't work very well. Now, talk about a blow to intelligent design. Here's the most common protein on the whole planet. Perhaps the most important protein. It's the one that takes gas out of the air, carbon dioxide, and turns it into good food. And it doesn't work very well. Why? Why would God design an enzyme that doesn't work very well? In fact, if you went up to a green plant on a warm, sunny day, calm and away from the traffic sounds and leaned your ear against this plant, you could hear it going, trying to get enough carbon dioxide to make this enzyme work. By the way, does anybody have an idea? Why does this enzyme work so poorly? I don't think it was designed to work poorly. Look what that says on your shirt. You can't tell me God designed an enzyme to work poorly. What? Try.
Burn up the plant if it ran too fast?
Actually, by the way, that's a problem. Sometimes people think, the more sun, the faster the plant works. Do you realize you can really burn them up with too much sunshine? They will over-oxidize and actually do metabolic harm to themselves. And so they have a whole bunch of ways to shut down photosynthesis when the factory starts running too fast. That's kind of interesting. But now you're the 4 C's man. Okay. Anybody else want to think of why that enzyme doesn't work well? I would say God created it perfectly, but it doesn't work well.
Because there's so much of it?
Well, that keeps us alive, I guess, because there's so much of it working. Yes? Aha! Yay! The fall. The corruption of creation. It was designed perfectly by God. It worked perfectly in what? The Garden of Eden and the world that God created. Do we live in the world that God created perfect? No. You notice that on the traffic driving over here. We no longer live in a perfect world. And so we have a perfect enzyme, what? Trapped in an imperfect world. That's why it doesn't work well. The enzyme is perfectly designed by God for the perfect world. And by the way, the perfect world, of course this gets into a little political business, the perfect world would have a lot more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. We have only 0.03% carbon dioxide today. Most plants thrive at 10 times that amount. Where'd all the extra carbon dioxide go? At the time of the flood, what happened? It was buried underground, coal and oil, fossils, limestone rock. If it hadn't been for the flood, if those animals died after the fall but there was no flood, their decomposing bodies would release the carbon dioxide back in the air. We'd still have plenty of carbon dioxide, and what we would have? Global warming. Do you realize that global warming is the normal state of affairs? Okay. By the way, Florida overdoes it, okay? But you could, and so, in a way, I just thought of this, I think on the plane right over, that all these hyper-environmentalists that are opposing global warming are actually opposing nature. We should have more carbon dioxide in the air. They should be making people drive back and forth, setting open pit coal mines on fire. And you'd have lots more habitats, you'd increase the amount of vegetation and habitats on the earth a minimum of 14-fold, some would say 100-fold. And so by opposing global warming, we're keeping the earth decimated with the effects of the fall. Of course, if global warming happens too fast, those of us in Florida would have to wear scuba gear all the time. Our house is 4 feet above sea level, okay, so no wonder I get altitude sickness. The Miami Ridge that keeps the Everglades out of Miami, it's actually called that geologically, the Miami Ridge, 20 feet high. That's called a speed bump out here. But notice here, again though, just to make a point, here we have a perfect enzyme in an imperfect world. That's why it doesn't work so well. It's really designed for higher CO2 levels, but it does work adequately. And wow, what does it do? And so that enzyme takes carbon dioxide, and the carbon dioxide is stuck in here in the second position. And so you make this big 6-carbon intermediate. Now I'll have to shorten this up here. You get a 6-molecule, you get 6 carbons, but not in a row like you'd have in straight-chain glucose. The one is off to the side, and you name it according to the most active group, and so now it's an acid instead of a sugar. Oh, this is ribulose diphosphate down here. So this is a big 6-carbon molecule that immediately splits into 2 3-carbon acids. So here you have CO2 plus an energized 5-carbon sugar, makes a temporary 6-carbon acid that splits into 2 things we've already seen before.